I'm Todd Schaefer, and I'm running for the United States House of Representatives to represent Florida's 4th Congressional District. I'm running as an independent because both parties have failed this country. Both parties are as corrupt as each other. They are bought and paid for by the same moneyed interests that have been running this country into the ground. And those two parties force us to argue with each other, force us to not even turn out in elections, because everyone has agreed that the system is broken. Everyone agrees that no matter how hard you vote, we're going to get wars and debt and bad health care. It's just going to be that way. So why vote? Let's look at the numbers from the 2022 midterm election. In our district, in Florida's 4th Congressional District, last election we had a 54% turnout. That means 46% of people decided to just stay at home. We had 2 weeks of early voting, same-day voting, mail-in voting, and 46% of this district stayed home, didn't participate in the election. And if you look at younger voters, it's even more stark. 18 to 24-year-old voters, 21% turnout. That means if you talk to your children, if they're in that age range, of 10 of their friends, 2 voted, 8 stayed at home. 25 to 34. Young people who are establishing themselves in the workforce have decided that 3/4 of them shouldn't be interested in the political process because the political process isn't doing anything for them. Their government isn't working for them, so why go out and vote? And as people get older, 35 to 44, 40%, still bad. 45 to 54, 54%, still bad. 55 to 64, 66%. Now we're talking. Now 2/3 of those people are actually getting out and voting. So why aren't the young people voting? Why have we allowed that to happen? And I'm here to tell you that has happened because the government doesn't work for us. The only people that it benefits even mildly are the people who are older, who already have theirs. And to be clear, I'm not saying that the government needs to fix all of our problems, but the government at the same time needs to stop causing problems in this country. It is a problem that kids aren't getting out and voting. It is a problem that we teach our kids when they are in school that we have a government that is of, by, and for the people, and then we think it's okay when they reach voting age that they just don't participate. That has got to stop. We need the government to start working for us. And further, we need the government to start acting like they're spending money that we are giving them permission to spend. We are $39 trillion in debt. $39 trillion. 1981 was the first time that it passed $1 trillion. 1981 was conveniently 10 years after we left the gold standard. As soon as we left the gold standard, we all made a decision as a country that money wasn't real, that the government would just make money, bring it into existence. And somewhere along the lines, we decided that banks should be the ones issuing that money, that banks should be the ones earning interest on that money that is paid for with our taxes. They have taken that money that was freely given to them. I'm not arguing that. But it was freely given to them, and then they turned around and decided to buy our government. Over decades, they bought our government. You wonder, why don't we have unions anymore in this country? Corporations decided in the mid-'80s, if the government's just going to print money and debt is an okay thing to have, we'll just buy that debt. They're going to pay us in taxes, interest on that debt, and we don't even have to pay these workers. So why should we let them unionize? Then they came to the decision, in the late 80s, they started to push something called NAFTA, and that was signed into law when Bill Clinton took office. but it was a Reagan plan. It was a big business plan. Why would we pay workers at all when we can just print debt? We can make money on that debt. They're going to pay it with their taxes. But why should we pay them at all when we can send our manufacturing overseas, make it with cheap labor, make all of our goods with cheap labor? Then those goods get shipped back to the United States and it will be bought with debt. It will be bought with debt that the American government makes. They will bring it into existence. And on top of that, we can buy that debt and make more money. After the Cold War ended and the war machine didn't have any more profit motive, they had to make new wars. We spent over 20 years in Afghanistan. We did Iraq. We did Libya. We did Syria. Decades of making wars that didn't need to exist so that we can print money, give it to weapons manufacturers, and make war. There always has to be an enemy. There always has to be some reason that we need more money for the military. And we've done it over and over and over again, printing and printing and printing. The burden falls on us. Our taxes have to pay that debt. Then, in 2008, Barack Obama came along, and he said that he was going to give us universal health care, or he was going to give us a public option. What did we get instead? The Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act, in case you don't know, which most people probably do, is based upon debt. They have to print money in order to pay for the ACA subsidies. They print money. Those insurance companies collect that money. They buy our debt through treasuries. So they're making money on our taxes and they're making money on our premiums. And then they're denying care. Health insurance companies are just denying care. Why would universal health care or a public option have been better? Because every Republican will tell you, they're saying it today, that a larger health care pool will make insurance cheaper. Well, the largest insurance pool we could have in the United States is the country, the entire country in one healthcare pool. You reduce risk and you reduce costs by having a larger healthcare pool. Why will they not allow us to have a healthcare pool that is the size of the United States? That would drastically reduce costs. Medicare has overhead of 2 to 5%. Normal insurance, commercial insurance, has overhead of 20 to 30%. Why do they want us to pay overhead for insurance when we have proven that we can provide it with 2 to 5% overhead? And that is not the government taking over healthcare. That is the government paying the bill. That is the government allowing us to have a nation-sized healthcare pool to reduce costs. We got the ACA because that is debt. Debt, 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 debt. Wars, debt. ACA, debt. Shipping jobs overseas, debt. The immigration crisis. Why are all of the immigrants coming to the United States? Because of the wars that we have caused. Because of the destabilization that we had to cause so that we could have an enemy, so that we could justify more war, more defense budget, more terrorism. Over and over and over again for decades. No matter which party is in charge, decades of debt. Decades of them letting us fall by the wayside. Decades of towns like mine that used to be a thriving factory town, and now it's a stop on the interstate. Now the corporate headquarters of Delco Remy in Anderson, Indiana is gone. And in its place is a dealership that sells $60,000 trucks that no one can afford because there were profits to be made by manufacturing overseas. My hometown is not alone. Drive anywhere in this country. I just drove up to Charleston for my son's graduation from Nuclear Power A School. And everywhere you go 10 minutes off of the interstate, everywhere you go, it is a country that is destitute. It is a country that just wants a chance. I offered to Aaron Bean's office just before Christmas the American Prosperity Card Act. I hand-delivered it to his office, and I asked for a reply. What that act does is it allows us to earn money on our bank deposits. It allows us to reclaim the swipe fees that are right now the third largest expense for small businesses. 3 to 5%. Small businesses have to pay on every transaction. When I was working on this bill, I went to my local gas station. I asked the two kids behind the counter, do you understand that me just swiping this card took money out of your next raise? And when I explained what swipe fees are and how expensive they are, one of them said, the banks are always screwing us. Kids know that. Kids know that. That's why 8 out of 10 of them don't even vote. Because they know they're getting screwed. They know that no matter how hard they vote, they're going to get screwed. So they don't vote. And we think that's okay. That is not okay. We can do better. You'll notice, I'm not in some fancy studio. I'm talking to you like normal people talk. Because I'm not paying someone to tell me the poll-tested cool thing that I need to be saying to you to get your vote. I'm putting this out to everyone in our district. I'm going to just be honest. You may not agree with everything that I say. I don't expect you to. I won't agree with everything that you say either. But I am not going to take money from big business. I'm not going to take money from banks. I'm not going to take money from a party so that they can tell me to spend money to talk to you correctly. If you want honest representation, my name is going to be on the ballot in November. If you want a party line vote that is a D or an R, then feel free to vote that way. I'm doing what I feel I have to do for this country by giving you an option. I truly hope that I win. If I don't, I'll try again in 2028 because I feel that it has to be done. I feel that we deserve better. Thank you for your time. If this message appeals to you, please share it with your family and your friends. Share it with the young people who don't vote. And I'll tell you what, even if they aren't going to vote for me, I would love to see them get out and at least participate in our government, in this beautiful, fragile government that was gifted to us simply by being Americans. Have a great day.